All right. Welcome to the Family and Fatherhood podcast. We just recently named it last week in our episode, Foundational F-Bombs, where we talk about family, fatherhood, faith, friendship.
Finance, fitness, future. There's probably 50 different F topics that are going to come up over the course of this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be curious to see how many different F topics we're going to talk about.
That's right.
But I'm Paul Coleman. I'm going to be hosting today, and I want to introduce my co-host.
I'm Zack Schuler.
So in our recent episodes, you guys got to know me a little bit. I got to go into my background and why I thought it was applicable to this show. But I wanted to kind of give an alignment of why it is a segment and why it brought me to this part of my life where I feel like doing a podcast and helping other fathers and other families and other men kind of became my purpose. So I want to start there with you. I want you to give a little background, but also keep in mind, I want you to know how it got you to this place here today to where we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks, Paul. So background wise, just to keep it as simple as I can, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I started my first business when I was 21 years old. It was in tech, and started that in 1995. I sold that business in 2013, and between 95 and 2013, I grew the business from just myself to just under 100 employees and just over 20 million in revenue.
Wow.
Sold that business to a private equity group, and basically told the private equity group that I wanted to sell it and be done. I'm happy to transition as CEO to the next CEO, which we did. And then I don't know, like 3-6 months later, I was out. I was done.
Oh.
And so it was quick. And so I would sort of categorize that period of my life after selling my first company and starting my second one probably is the most depressing part of my life because, I think my last year probably takes the cake on most depressing. But that period of time, I had no purpose. There was nothing to do. I would get up in the morning, I would watch the stock market, and then after 1 o'clock, I would be done. And I also didn't have the kind of financial outcome that would allow me to fly private jets all over the country and, all that kind of good stuff. So I still had to watch my pennies. I was fortunate in that I started a second business in cybersecurity. First was in tech. This was in cyber. So, pretty closely related.
Yeah.
And in that business, I did a lot of things right. There was a significant amount of luck and timing. And any entrepreneur that tells you that those two things don't come into play, they're lying if they were successful. And I started that business July 15th of 2015. I sold it July 15th of 2021, so exactly 6 years to the day.
Wow.
And I sold it for 3 times more than I sold my first business. And so financially, it was a fantastic outcome for me.
Let me interject just for a second.
Please.
Just because I don't want to skip over that period where you said you were depressed, or maybe the second most depressed. Usually when somebody sells a company and they build something, were you depressed because you weren't left on the board and didn't have any more say in the company that you built? I know when you build a company, it kind of feels like your baby. Or was it because I didn't get enough or I didn't do enough? Just take me through that of what caused.
Yeah, so, Paul, such a great question. I was not emotionally attached to the business in the way that a lot of people get. I had always had, not always, but I had the business for 18 years, and probably in year 8, I kind of knew like one day I'm going to sell this thing, right? And so that was my thought process, and I kind of manifested that as my outcome. And so I didn't feel as though I lost my baby. I certainly probably felt like I lost a little bit of my identity.
Okay.
But I think the biggest thing for me was, what am I going to do next? I was 38 years old, right? people would say, "What do you do?" I would say I was retired. I'm like, that sounds really dumb. 38 and I'm retired, right?
Or it sounds, I mean, people watching would probably be like, I'd be happy to be retired
Yeah,
at 38, but yeah.
sure. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's dumb. And I think that what was really going on with me is I just didn't know, like, what's next. And I remember sharing these moments with my wife at the time where I would come up with like the dumbest business ideas.
Serial entrepreneur. So looking for more purpose, I guess.
Yeah, looking for more purpose. And I would come up with these really dumb ideas, and I would run it by Leslie, and she'd be like, dude, that's so stupid. That's never going to work. And so, then I'm back to the drawing board and like, what's next? What's next? And then finally I stumbled across, the next business. I finally figured it out. I finally got my purpose back. And when I started that, man, every ounce of depression, every ounce of everything was gone. I was full speed ahead and working 70, 80 hours a week. I was employee number one. Again, the guy under the desk plugging in computers, hired employee number two, still doing it. So I built it from zero to what it became. And so long story short, yeah, that 18-month period, or I think that's about how long it was, maybe a little bit longer, but that period of time, it was rough, really rough.
Gotcha. I'm curious, when you did start the new business and now you're back working 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, how, as an entrepreneur, you get so focused, how did that affect you as a family man? I know we have faith, family, fatherhood.
Yeah.
And I've just seen guys go all in, friends that were retired playing golf every day, to I'm back to waking up at 4 a.m. and I don't get home till 7 p.m. And I see the dynamics it has on their family. I'm just so curious on your end, if you can look back and kind of share some of that with us.
Man, that was, and especially I think with my kids, that was probably the biggest failure that I had in life. And it didn't start with the second company. With the first company, I was all in with that as well. I started that before I had kids. But then I had kids, and I really, if I'm being just completely transparent, I never really slowed down to figure out how to disconnect work from, leaving it there and then being at home and being present, right? It was right at the time where I had a computer at home. I could remote into the office. Okay. I can get work done. I was so, I don't know if we want to use the term OCD, but I was just so into business that I didn't have a disconnect button. And I remember being at dinner, like out to dinner with the family, and they're not on phones.
Yeah.
Because at this point, like,
not everybody's sitting on their cell phone.
The iPhone wasn't around.
Yeah.
But I'm on my phone, and I'm, and Leslie would say, like, can you just not? And I'm like, but it's work. It's work. I got to do it. It's work.
Yeah.
And so I fell into that trap really, really early. And even during that point of time where sort of I had the depressive episode of not knowing my purpose, I would say even then I didn't connect with my kids enough because I think I was so focused on what's next. And then when I found what's next, I didn't focus on my kids enough. And I'm fixing that today.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm fixing that today. And it took a pretty major catastrophe in my life for me to realize that I have to be sort of forced to fix this.
Yeah.
And I guess you could also call the catastrophe a blessing at the same time, right? Because now I'm forced to fix it and I'm doing it.
Yeah. So just going back, there's a couple questions that I have that popped up just from that answer. But not being present with your kids and looking back, I think many men fall into that trap. We fall into the old school masculinity of we're a provider, we go to work, we provide a paycheck, we provide a home, a shelter. And today's masculinity is kind of changing to where a little more is expected, and men are realizing that you only have so many years with these kids. How are you changing that today, to just give some examples of how you're being present or how you're showing up for your kids differently than you did before?
Yeah. So the catastrophe / blessing, whatever you want to call it, is that I'm separated, almost divorced. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. We know we're in a similar boat. I might be a little further along, but after the separation, I moved up to, I've got a beach house. It's about an hour north of my normal residence. And so that's where I moved. I was there for 6 months, saw my kids every other weekend. And I was like, this isn't cutting it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up renting a place within about a mile of where my ex lives now, and went to her and said, I'm going to rent a place and I want 50-50 custody of the kids. And she was like, great. Kids would love that.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of respect for her because, we haven't argued about anything really as it comes to all of that stuff. And so I got my 2 younger kids back.
Awesome.
And,
what are their ages?
So Anderson is 14 and Avery is now 19.
Okay.
And just yesterday, I had to go into like the Melrose area. And so I went to Anderson and said, hey, do you want to go to Melrose with me? And he's like, sure. Like, I've never been there.
Yeah.
I'm like, great, get in the car. And so we go and I had to pick up a couple of things because I'm building a new house and whatever. And I'm like, well, where do you want to go now? And he's like, I want to go to Rodeo Drive. And it was pouring rain, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we drove to Rodeo Drive. I'm like, where? Balenciaga. Okay. So we park right out in front of Balenciaga. He walks in. We look at T-shirts. I'm like, do you have anything in mind for your birthday, which is coming up next month? He's like, yeah, that. I look at the T-shirt. It's $750.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, pal, maybe you'll get half a T-shirt. But anyhow, you asked. So it's like moments like that 2 years ago,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't have thought to ask him to go because he would have been around the rest of his siblings and his mom and everything else. I just would have gone and done my business and come back.
Gotcha.
But because like we're together now.
Yeah.
Right. And we make dinner together and he's totally into music. And so I'm listening and kind of helping him with his music stuff. And so we're just.
And that's, I mean, I know you, so I'm a friend. I mean, that's right down your alley, like being able to connect over music and
yeah. So it's great. And then my older daughter is 19, like she's got a car, so she's not around quite as much. But even with her, like I'll go and she'll be watching some dumb show on TV, like Gossip Girls or I don't know, things like that. And I'll go.
For all you Gossip Girl fans, I love the show. That's just one opinion. I'm kidding. I've never seen it, but
oh, good. I was getting worried.
Yeah.
So yeah. So she's watching it. I go and I jump in bed with her and sit next to her and pretend like I'm watching it. I'm probably thinking about different things, and then I start to talk to her and get it distracted, and she pauses, and we have like these good little conversations. And then she's getting frustrated that she can't watch her show, and so she's like, "Dad, get out," and, unpauses it. But there's so many little things now that I get to experience with my kids because I am responsible for them, right?
Yeah.
I'm not the guy working 60 hours a week and offloading all child responsibilities onto my wife.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's created this beauty that I now have, especially with my younger two. And then my olders are off to college, so that hasn't changed a whole lot.
Hasn't changed yet. But the mentality that you're coming in, just seeing your face light up as you tell these stories, you just get a feeling Like it just changed the mood in the room for me. We just went over like, I was depressed. I went through this. And then you started talking about rebuilding a relationship with your kids. And instantly my mood changed because of the way your face is lighting up, because of the moments, the little present moments you're sharing with them.
Yeah.
So just because your kids are away at college, I coach men. So I coach men whose kids are older and married, and they're still taking the time to rebuild the relationships. And just these moments that you're noticing, I mean, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to see your natural reaction. Your big smile, your dimples, your face lights up as you're talking about your kids. So in this part of your life, you've done the entrepreneurial stuff. You've created companies and sold them. And from the outside looking in, Zach, there's plenty of guys that look at you and like, man, that guy's a boss. That guy did it all. That guy started from nothing, started from scratch, started in his garage, and built two amazing companies, and two totally different companies, by the way. But we don't get to see the insight that you're sharing us now of some of the regret. And it's, as you've transitioned to talking about your kids, I want you to continue going, because I'm going to challenge you actually. How can we get your college kids? How can we get Zach to light up the same way you just did, talking about your daughter and your son, that we can talk about your college kids?
Yeah. So what I will say is that so I've got two in college. My youngest in college, Allie, goes to LMU, and our relationship has absolutely blossomed. And she used to go to her mom for a lot of things.
Yep.
She now goes to her dad for a lot of things. I mean, she still has a great relationship with her mom, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of stuff that she comes to me for.
Yeah.
Right. And we've got a lot of like really good conversations. 3 nights ago, she's on winter break. So 3 nights ago, I knew she was just sitting around. I'm like, Al, let's go to dinner. And so, just she and I went to Basta, a local Italian steakhouse place here. And we just got to talk. And so that relationship has, I think, naturally blossomed out of the experience that I had with my youngers.
Yeah.
With my older son, there's more strain there.
Okay.
Right now.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So he goes to perhaps the most liberal college on the planet. And if I were to talk about my political beliefs, I feel like I'm very moderate. He is extremely to the left.
Okay.
And which is great in a sense of like he's exploring like his thoughts and how he sees the world and all of this stuff. But there are just these like arguments that happen usually from an Instagram post that was shared from one to the other.
Yeah.
And then I've finally have had to say like, look, don't send me, like he loves soccer. Soccer's his life.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't send me anything political. Don't send me anything religious. Send me soccer stuff. And we're gonna leave it at that.
I think that's a good starting point. I think once you start to build a connection, you being kind of moderate, I've known you for a while. You and I kind of share similar beliefs where some things we pull from the left, some things we pull from the right. And we like to see both sides and hear both sides, which is why I think we have great conversations on politics or religion. But I will say that shutting those off completely, I wouldn't throw that out the window. I think as you start to build connection, and maybe it's through soccer, maybe it's through shared passion, maybe it's through shared interests like music with Anderson, I think you can start to get into those deeper conversations where beliefs are separate, but your values as a person and your son's values as a person haven't changed.
They have not.
So I would challenge you to try to build on the things that you share, on the passions that you guys are, but I wouldn't totally say like, maybe for now, as you know, my background, I've gone through some political and some religious stuff.
Yeah.
And I tried just ignoring it. And and it works. I mean, you're putting a Band-Aid on the problem and you just avoid it.
Yeah, but there's always like the elephant in the room.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think in relationship and friendship, and correct me if I'm wrong, but being able to be your authentic self, being able to be vulnerable. And I think that's over the last 2 years, our friendships has blossomed to where we used to talk about surfing, golf, soccer, sports. We'd do parties together. But now I can say, Zach, you got 2 hours. Let's go have coffee and just talk.
Yeah.
And we can talk about anything.
Right.
And I know I'm not going to be judged by you. I know that you're going to listen to me and you're going to be an ear for me. And I would do the same for you on any given day. So I would just ask you down the road, because you don't want that non-authentic relationship festering.
That's right.
So I would just continue to work on that. But it sounds like, and to be honest, I'm a little jealous, like, because you now have that time. And your focus now can be on, I have the time, the knowledge, the ability to grow, and the self-awareness to make my kids and my friendships and my relationships a priority. And going back to what you said at the beginning, where I want to tie this in, you said it's one of the biggest failures, the disconnection that you had.
That's right.
And now that you have the time, I just want to ask, like, how are you going to disconnect some of the stuff we learn as businessmen? Fix problems, solve problems, make rash decisions. Sometimes it's impatient. It's I got to make a decision today. Where relationships kind of require, I got to see their side without making a judgment. I don't have to fix their problems. I just have to listen. Our relationship's not always going to be great today, but I got to be patient and love and caring to prolong the relationship. So how do you make that adjustment from the corporate world and what it takes? It's cutthroat out there in business. What it takes to manage a great company and eventually sell it. Yeah. And then to turn that off and be able to come home and change the relationships, either in your dating life, in your relationships with your kids, in your friendships around town. I just want to know the transition of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the fortunate part is because I'm not working and I'm not in that, sort of cutthroat mindset, I have an easier time when, I'm working on a project like this. I have an easier time disconnecting when I get home. And I think that's developed really well. I want to go back to my oldest son.
Yep.
Because that's our relationship has, sort of the biggest challenges. And as you're sitting here and talking, I'm realizing that, and we used this phrase last episode, that I am reacting. I'm not responding.
Okay. Tell me more on that.
Yeah. So, he'll bring up a topic or he'll, send me a post or whatever. And then just the immediate thing, it just gets under my skin. And I need to actively think that when something like that comes through, you look at it and you go, okay, that's interesting. And I think last episode you talked about being curious.
I think curiosity is a great communication barrier.
Yeah.
If you can approach it with curiosity versus defensiveness,
right?
Or like you said, respond versus react.
Right.
So
yeah, and so I think I'm going to walk away today actually from this session that we're having, this therapy session that you're giving me, and I have a couple of thoughts in my head just about my next conversation with my son and how that's going to go down. He leaves in 3 days to go to London. He's going to be studying abroad.
Oh, that's amazing. Whereabouts?
Absolutely amazing. I don't remember the exact name of the town, but he's going to be like in the main part of London.
That's awesome.
And I know that he is not going to be very far from where Arsenal plays,
Okay.
because that's his absolute favorite team.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's most excited about. But getting back to him, yeah, I have to, it's on me. It's on me to set the stage. I'm the dad. I'm the one with the wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, and I'm sure anybody that's our age that have kids that are, 10, 11, 12 or older, like they think they know everything.
Yeah.
And then I think sometimes you got to just let them think that they know everything.
They got to learn.
Yeah. And just be like, okay. So, yeah. So I think I've got to, I definitely need to connect with my son in a meaningful way before he leaves.
That's awesome. And a great goal. I mean, like we said, you're 50, I'm 40. We're still learning and growing.
Oh yeah.
We're still, and that's what I want to get back to the original question I asked is, do some of these failures or some of these disconnections that you have, is this kind of what driven you to this new purpose, to this new podcast? What's kind of driven you here to be in that seat today?
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest life change that I've had is going through my separation and the divorce process. And I went on a journey to ask myself, like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Right? Because 21 years ago, April 17th, 2004, when I walked down the aisle and I said, I do. And I read my vows, like I meant that. Yeah. And I didn't ever see this coming. And so I think going through that process, you ask yourself, okay, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
What happened? And I took a massive amount of accountability for how things transpired. But that definitely led me down a journey of self-reflection. And I mean, I did some crazy stuff. I mean, not illegal, but
yeah,
I did ketamine therapy.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. Probably did 12 to 15 sessions of that. And each time you come out of that, you're like, whoa, I didn't realize that about myself. And so I've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think the work that I've done and the knowledge that I have now and why I'm sitting here is because I want to be able to share that with other people.
Oh.
Right. And what I would really love to do is to be able to, and we'll have to probably do this in another episode, like, hey, how did things go wrong and off track with your relationship and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What I really want to do, I want to save marriages.
I think that's very noble, especially in today's society where I feel like marriage is under attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can just tell my story and have people understand like where I went wrong, and then sort of tell them what I should have done, in hindsight. And if I can do that, and I can have a woman that's watching or a man that's watching go, whoa, I have that same pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So look what ended up happening to this guy. It's not good.
Yeah. So
I want to help reverse those negative patterns of behavior for anybody that's watching.
I think it's very touching as you say that. I think I came to you as I was writing a book for myself, more of a memoir. But it's crazy the journey you went on. You talked about accountability and self-awareness and how that turned into purpose. And it just struck me emotionally a little bit because as I sat through therapy, as I sat with men coaches, 2 of them told me I'd be sitting in this chair today trying to help other men. And it kind of gave me chills when you started talking about that, because it's almost an identical journey to where it was like, I took accountability, I took awareness, and now if we can save one marriage, if we can save one family, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
But if we can reach a generation of men, a generation of families, and get more reach than just our community and our friends, I think there is no greater purpose than trying to heal others. So I commend you.
Thanks.
For kind of, it's just crazy that I never really had this conversation. I don't think I asked you what's the purpose of starting the podcast, but it's, and I don't know if I ever told you mine, but it's crazy that they kind of align on those same, because when you go through it, it hurts. And
it's a hurt that you've never experienced before.
Correct. And I think, what'd you say, 2004? So 22 years?
We were married just over 20 before we separated, yeah.
So 20 years. I mean, that's...
long time.
It's almost all your adult life.
Yeah.
And when you look back at it, and I think the reason you were saying most people don't do the awareness or the work or the accountability, it's easier to be the victim and just run away.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is you're going to make the same mistakes in your next relationship.
That's right. So
for the men out there, for the women out there that can see similar as you're going to start to share your story, as I'll start to share my stories, I mean, if you don't look in and fix what went wrong or have the accountability of what went wrong, how can your next relationship, it
won't. You'll just repeat, rinse and repeat.
And
nothing will change.
Yeah, I'm curious. You said 20 years, so that leaves a kind of a 2-year gap right now, right?
Yeah, so I separated August 25th, 2024. So it's been a year and 4 or 5 months.
Year and 4 or 5 months. And have you started dating?
I have.
I'm curious. Did you see, before you started, or did you jump right into the work and accountability, or did you jump back into dating?
No, I made the unfortunate decision of plugging a gap, filling a void, and I just immediately went into the dating world because I thought that, hey, I lost this.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that I lost everything in a moment. My house, my kids, my wife, my friends. Because in a moment, I had to leave all of those things and move up to a second home. And so I was so lonely.
Yeah.
And everything was so different that, that was my immediate thought of like, man, I need to get some of that back. And so, I jumped into dating way too early. Wouldn't advise it, but I understand why I did it.
Yeah.
But didn't, I don't think I really did the work until, probably like got serious about it, I would say in March of last year. And it was funny because it was actually the woman that I was dating was like, you got to figure some stuff out.
Like I said, it's going to get called out in your next relationship.
Yeah. And I don't think I was showing up the same way for her that I was for my wife at the time. But yeah, like I had to figure some stuff out. And, I started that. Then I went and dated somebody else and whatever, that didn't work out. But yeah, I think if I could rewind the clock, I would say take the time.
Yeah.
Be alone. Take the time. Understand how to be alone. Because when you're married for 20 years, you don't really know how to do that.
Yeah.
You're always going to bring in a distraction, whether it's, hanging out with a bunch of friends and partying all the time, or it's, dating, or it's like whatever. You're going to distract yourself so you don't have to be with yourself. And so,
I've never heard it phrased like that, but I like that.
yeah. And I mean, that's what I was doing. And it's hard to not distract yourself. It's hard to just sit in silence by yourself. And I'm not talking like sitting in silence for 10 minutes, but I'm talking about being by yourself for days.
Yeah.
And, of course, maybe having dinner with friends or whatever, but by and large, you're alone. Like, just be alone.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to experience that now. And it's not fun, but I feel a heck of a lot better now than I did when I felt like, oh my gosh, I need something to
and I think
plug the gap.
A 20-year marriage, I mean, and like you said, those 4 things you lost in it within hours, and you're out of the house, and now you're in a new home. The kids aren't there, the animals aren't there, whatever it may be, everything that you're accustomed to coming home every day is gone.
Yeah.
You're just, like you said, loneliness, I think the word you used.
That's
you're just,
right. Yeah.
And if you're going to numb it with the next relationship or going out and drinking or going to Vegas or whatever it may be, you never really get, like you said, to relearn to be alone. And I'm in that now, where I'm just starting to experience that.
Yeah.
So the advice that you're telling to all these men, I'm taking it to heart, because everything I've learned is learn to love yourself, learn to create your own happiness, your own joy.
That's right. Yeah.
I think there's only 2 people guaranteed to love Zack in this world. It's you and your faith in God.
That's right. And it's funny that you mention faith. It's not funny. It's always there. But I've got a good friend of mine who's a pastor. His name's Francis Chan. And he just wrote a book with his daughter called Beloved. And it talks about, really, like, the crux of it is accepting God's love. Like, God's love is the foundation. It's not the reward. In other words, there's nothing you can do to earn it. It just exists.
Yeah.
And whether you had a bad week where maybe you weren't aligned with what your values and your beliefs are, or whether you have a good week, God loves you the same. And once you're able to accept that, and that's hard to accept, but once you can accept that, then, this is just my belief, you can love yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, okay, God loves me always, no matter what I do. Then you can love yourself. And once you learn how to love yourself, you learn how to love other people. And you learn how to love the person that you're dating, or your kids better, or, hopefully for a lot of people listening, you learn how to love your spouse better.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, that's just so powerful.
So it's kind of amazing that same love that you're talking about, God gives us on our good days, on our bad days, whatever we're going through, we know it's there. How do we provide that for a partner?
Right.
And I think this podcast and some of the lessons that we've learned will help other men, will help other families who are going through similar situations come at these hard conversations with empathy and love and compassion versus defensiveness or debate or avoiding them. We talked about earlier about avoiding these conversations, and I don't think that's the healthy way to go. I do want to follow up on the children question, just because my kids are a little younger than yours.
Yeah.
I think I got 11, 9, 7, and 7.
Yep.
I went to your house, and I think it was out in Simi Valley
Yeah.
And I mean, this thing, you had like a dirt track, you had a soccer field, like it was just built for kids in the 80s or 90s to be outside. And I was like, man, he's one-wheeling, he's got all these toys, his kids are outside. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because in my mind, always wanting to be a good dad and keep them off the screens and keep them in sports and kind of raise them outside when I saw that house, I was like, man, he is all in as a dad.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Which I wasn't all in as a dad.
That was my thought though. When I go there and I see
Yeah.
a kid's paradise.
Yeah. Well, I was very generous with my kids, and I built them things and, provided for them so that they could have that paradise.
Yeah.
My problem is I didn't spend enough time with them in that paradise.
And like I said, if we're going to live in the past, we live in the past. I think you've made a point to be present.
Yep.
Live here now, and a great admiration for what you're trying to do now and build the relationships that you can now. Let's get after it. I think 2026 is going to be a great year. We'll manifest something great.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to spending more time together as friends and doing more podcasts. I know you're all about it. I get the text, you want to film tomorrow? You want to film tomorrow? It's awesome.
I love it.
I love the enthusiasm. I love
Yeah.
that we're learning and growing together, and I appreciate it. Thank you for
right.
the interview.
All right, Paul.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you.